For decades, India and China have shared a long and uneasy border, a border marked by mountains, rivers, and the scars of conflict. In recent years, they've tried to talk peace. Leaders have met, ministers have travelled, disengagement was announced, yet the shadow of mistrust lingers and de-escalation is yet to be achieved. Because behind every handshake lies another alliance, one that binds Beijing with Islamabad, from military hardware to political backing, from economic corridors to disputed valleys. China and Pakistan remain ironclad partners, a partnership that often comes at India's expense. In Washington, Donald Trump's new tariff war on Beijing is redrawing global alignments. Many believe it is pushing India closer to China. But the real question isn't, will the elephant and the dragon dance together? It is, should the elephant and the dragon dance together at all? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. As Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi wraps up his two-day visit to India, New Delhi faces an uncomfortable question. Can it really trust China even as Beijing deepens its embrace of Pakistan? The visit is framed as a chance to reset ties, but beneath the handshakes and formal statements lies a harsher reality. India must decide whether dialogue with China is diplomacy or delusion. Wang Yi's arrival comes at a sensitive moment. For the first time since the disengagement along the line of actual control in Ladakh, Delhi has been now pressing on Beijing towards de-escalation. Nearly 5 years after the Galwan clashes, both nations have kept between 50,000 to 60,000 troops along the frontier. The standoff has not ended, it has merely frozen into an armed watchfulness. And yet, the Chinese minister is here, meeting External Affairs Minister Jaishankar and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, the two officials tasked with managing the boundary question. The meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a prelude to Modi's first visit to China in 7 years.
Well, India has no option but to proceed on better ties with China, given the fact that China is one of India's largest trading partners. We share a contested boundary, a 4,000 kilometer long line of actual control. It's a disputed boundary. But given the trajectory of India-US relations in the last couple of weeks, especially under President Donald Trump, India has no option but to seek better ties with China. Now, the India-US partnership under President Donald Trump's second term has been a bit of a shocker, because this was a partnership that was built up over 25 years. This was being steered under successive Republican and Democrat presidents. It's 25 years since President Clinton was the first US president to visit India in nearly 2 decades. Ever since, successive US presidents have built upon this relationship and turned it into what US politicians call the most significant strategic partnership of the 21st century. But under Donald Trump, under his in his second presidency term, he has upended the entire relationship. He has made it transactional. He has caused New Delhi great grief with not just his words but his actions as well, imposing tariffs. India has among the highest tariffs in the world, apart from Brazil. This has come under the second Trump administration, and many in New Delhi are questioning the fate of the India-US strategic partnership under President Donald Trump. Now, in such circumstances, in such changed geopolitical times of geopolitical flux, India has no option but to pursue better ties with China. And that is a process that has been set in motion over the last couple of months. Feelers have come from the Chinese side as of last year, when there was a certain element of demilitarization, a certain element of disengagement along the line of control line of actual control with China and India on the Ladakh frontier. After that, India and China have decided to slowly rebuild that relationship and possibly try and take it back to what it was pre-2020, when China unilaterally brought its military on the border in a show of muscle flexing. Now, trust has been the biggest casualty in the India-China relationship, especially in the last couple of years, given the border posturing that China under Xi Jinping has embarked upon. But given this very changed and very altered geopolitical scenario, especially in the past couple of months, India has no option but to proceed along better ties with China.
But trust does not come easily. Behind the veneer of renewed engagement is Beijing's parallel dance with Islamabad. Wang Yi's next stop after India is Pakistan, a move that undercuts any illusion of singular focus on India. At the very moment Beijing speaks of stabilizing ties with Delhi, it strengthens military and diplomatic muscle of India's most entrenched adversary. This duplicity is what fuels the central dilemma. Can India take China's assurances at face value? The shadow of Pakistan looms large. China's ironclad friendship with Islamabad is no secret. In recent months, Pakistan has received Hangaur-class submarines, J-10C fighter jets, and diplomatic cover from Beijing during India's anti-terror strikes. Beijing even rolled out the red carpet for Pakistan's Army Chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, weeks after he visited Washington. For Delhi, the optics are striking. China poses as a peace partner on the Himalayas while bolstering Pakistan's military machine in India's backyard. And Beijing's willingness to balance between Washington and Islamabad only adds to India's suspicions. Pakistan is not merely a client, but a conduit through which China exerts pressure on Delhi from multiple angles.
China has severe trust issues when it comes to India, and one of those big reasons for those trust issues is China's arming of Pakistan over the last couple of decades. Now, China is believed to have supplied Pakistan not just nuclear weapons blueprints, but actually tested the weapons for them. It's given Pakistan fissile material in the 1980s, and it's proceeded to arm Pakistan over several decades. Now, 80% of Pakistan's military purchases over the last few years have been of Chinese origin, and all of this hardware was seen during Operation Sindoor, whether it was surface-to-air missiles, whether it was fighter jets, long-range air-to-air missiles, all of them were Chinese in origin. That didn't, of course, prevent India from doing what it had to do during Operation Sindoor. All of the Chinese hardware, the performance has been severely questioned because they could not protect Pakistan from what they were intended to do. China continues arming Pakistan with submarines, for instance. That's a big force multiplier. China plans to not just supply Pakistan with submarines, it's planning to sell them 8 Hangaur-class submarines, but it's also giving it the capacity, the capability to build submarines on its own. That's a very big capability that Pakistan has not had until now. Now, given all of these issues, China's consistent arming of Pakistan, which does not have India's best interests at heart, that will continue to be, well, not the elephant in the room, but certainly the dump truck filled with gravel in the middle of the room when India and China talk business.
At stake is not just Pakistan, it is a history of suspicion that refuses to fade. India has watched Beijing build a mega dam on the Yarlung port, threatening water flows into the Brahmaputra. It has watched Chinese survey ships dock in Sri Lanka and the Maldives, gathering data with dual-use potential. It has seen China woo Indian media and intellectual circles in track to diplomacy, trying to soften perceptions even as its actions harden mistrust. And it has never forgotten 1963, when Pakistan handed over the Shaksgam Valley, a part of Indian territory under illegal occupation, to China through a so-called border agreement. The valley remains under Chinese control today. How then does India separate dialogue from deception? Brahmaputra Dam is the clearest example of Beijing's unilateralism. Approved in late 2024, the project is hailed in China as a project of the century, the largest hydropower dam in the world, costing an estimated $167 billion. But downstream in India and Bangladesh, it is viewed as a weapon. Water experts warn of unpredictable ecological damage, food security risks, and a precedent where Beijing controls a river that sustains millions. Delhi has lodged concerns, but Beijing brushes them aside, insisting the project is an internal matter of sovereignty. For India's public, the message is chilling. China does not consult, it constructs. And for Bangladesh, struggling with climate change and floods, the dam poses risks that could worsen its already fragile water security. Thus, India and Bangladesh, often divided in recent years, find themselves sharing a common anxiety over Beijing's upstream ambitions. And then comes Pakistan. Each time India takes decisive action against cross-border terrorism, Beijing appears on Islamabad's side. In May, as Indian forces struck terror camps in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and within Pakistan in retaliation for a cross-border terror attack at Pahalgam, Beijing supplied weapons and offered diplomatic cover to Islamabad. Pakistan used Chinese-supplied fighter jets in its air defense. Later, Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif inaugurated a new rocket force command underpinned by Chinese defense assistance. If trust is measured by consistency, Beijing consistently sides with India's enemy. The Shaksgam Valley Session in 1963 is a reminder that China's partnership with Pakistan is not new but structural. At the height of the Cold War, Pakistan gave away 5,180 square kilometers of territory in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir to Beijing. The tract was declared provisional, pending resolution of the Kashmir issue. But 6 decades later, China continues to administer the land as part of Xinjiang, rejecting India's claims. For Delhi, this is not just cartographic aggression. It is a permanent scar that symbolizes the Sino-Pakistan nexus against India's interests. Each time Beijing dismisses India's protests about Shaksgam, it reaffirms that Pakistan's illegal claims weigh heavier than India's legal ones. So when Wang Yi sits across from Jaishankar and Doval, he carries with him this history of mistrust. He speaks of de-escalation, but Chinese troops remain entrenched. He talks of repairing ties, but Beijing arms Pakistan. He invokes cooperation, but a mega dam threatens India's northeast. He promotes people-to-people exchanges, but Chinese state media continues anti-India narratives. The contradictions are glaring. Which China is India supposed to trust? The one that negotiates in Delhi or the one that plots with Rawalpindi?
This is very important because the basis for any positive momentum in our ties is the ability to jointly maintain peace and tranquility in the border areas. It is also essential that the de-escalation process move forward. Having seen a difficult period in our relationship, Excellency, our two nations now seek to move ahead. This requires a candid and constructive approach from both sides. In that endeavor, we must be guided by the three mutuals: mutual respect, mutual sensitivity, and mutual interest. Differences must not become disputes, nor competition conflict.
India's skepticism is not paranoia. It is rooted in patterns of behavior. Along the LAC, Beijing's PLA still maintains forward positions. In the Indian Ocean, Chinese research vessels conduct surveys with thinly veiled military purposes. In South Asia, Beijing bankrolls Pakistan with billions in loans and infrastructure projects, despite instability in Balochistan. And at multilateral platforms, China blocks India's moves to blacklist Pakistan-based terrorists. Each strand reinforces a simple truth: China's friendship with Pakistan is incompatible with genuine trust in India. Still, diplomacy demands engagement. Modi may travel to Tianjin for the SCO summit later this month, potentially meeting Xi Jinping on the sidelines. This would be their first bilateral in years, and the optics will be closely watched. But optics alone cannot erase structural realities. If Beijing expects Delhi to reset relations, it must explain why its most loyal ally remains Pakistan, the very state that exports terrorism to India. For China, Pakistan is more than a partner. It is a strategic pawn in a wider rivalry with India. Islamabad offers Beijing access to the Arabian Sea, a market for its defense industry, and leverage over India's western flank. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, running through disputed territory, embodies this alignment. Even as Baloch separatists attack Chinese projects, Beijing doubles down, pressing Islamabad for protection. The message again very clear: Pakistan is indispensable to China's regional ambitions. But for India, this is a red line. Trust cannot be built while China nurtures Pakistan's military capacity. Trust cannot grow while Beijing ignores India's territorial claims. Trust cannot flourish while Chinese dams threaten Indian livelihoods. The question then becomes sharper. Should India even try to trust China at all?
Had a wonderful meeting in the last round in Beijing. And I'm very happy that since then, in the last about 9 months, there has been an upward trend. Borders have been quiet. There have been peace and tranquility. Our bilateral engagements have been more substantial. And we are most grateful to our leaders who, in Kazan, in October last, were able to set a new trend. And we have profited a lot since then. The new environment that has been created has helped us in moving ahead in the various areas that we were working on. I'm very hopeful that, like the last one, this 24th Special Representative level talks would be equally successful. Our Prime Minister will be visiting for the SCO summit shortly, and therefore I think that this SR level talks assume a very special importance.
Some argue that engagement is necessary not because China is trustworthy, but because disengagement is riskier. A frozen conflict along the Himalayas is costly. Trade between the two nations worth $100 billion cannot be ignored. And global forums from BRICS to the SCO require Indian and Chinese cooperation. But engagement does not equal trust. It is a pragmatic hedge, not a partnership of equals. For Delhi, dialogue is about risk management, not reconciliation. The challenge for Delhi is to balance pragmatism with principle. Dialogue must continue, but without illusions. China's embrace of Pakistan is unlikely to loosen. Its projects on the Brahmaputra will proceed regardless of Indian protests. Its presence in the Indian Ocean will expand as Beijing pursues maritime power. To trust China blindly would be folly. To engage China cautiously may be necessity.
For this round of talks between the special representatives of China and India on the boundary question, the setbacks we experienced in the past few years were not in the interests of the people of our two countries. And then in October last year, President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi had an important meeting in Kazan. That meeting pointed the direction for the development of our bilateral relations and provided impetus for the proper settlement of the boundary question. We had a very good 23rd round of special representatives talks at the end of last year. At that meeting, we reached new and important consensus on the management of disagreements, stabilizing the borders, and moving toward a settlement. We identified specific goals and formed a working framework. We are heartened to see the stability that is now restored in the borders.
History offers sobering lessons. In 1962, India misread Chinese intentions and paid the price in a border war. In 1963, Pakistan's cession of Shaksgam Valley cemented the Sino-Pak axis. In 2020, Galwan proved that agreements on paper mean little when Chinese troops surge forward. And in 2022, Wang Yi was denied a meeting with Modi only to now return to Delhi in a bid for legitimacy. These precedents warn Delhi that trust without verification and leverage is a dangerous gamble. So as Modi prepares for his possible China trip and as Jaishankar hosts Wang Yi, the stage is set for another chapter in the uneasy India-China relationship. The handshakes will be polite, the communiques diplomatic, the optics carefully managed. But beneath it all remains the same question that refuses to fade. Can India trust China while Beijing holds Pakistan so close?
We don't know what the Chinese are going to do next, but we need to watch those steps. We have had disengagement and patrolling and grazing by October 2024, but we have not had so far de-escalation and de-induction of troops on the border. This is a major concern, peace and tranquility, but peace and tranquility in the background of deployment of troops, but most important, very offensive equipment, military equipment, like tanks, light tanks, the multiple rocket launchers, drones, and other things. So we need to actually see what will be the progress in this direction. Remember, Dr. Jaishankar mentioned on June 17, 2020, that unless until peace and tranquility prevails on the border, there is no bilateral relation between the two sides. So we need to see on this. The reason why I'm suggesting is so far there is no discussion on the resumption of the 30 different types of dialogues between the two sides, including media to media exchanges, think tank to think tank, the strategic dialogue between the foreign ministries, the annual defense dialogue between the defense ministries, the youth exchanges, the so many 30 of these dialogues are there. There is no discussion so far.
The answer may not lie in words but in actions. If China truly seeks a reset, it must show restraint on the border, transparency on water projects, and neutrality in South Asia. It must stop arming Pakistan in ways that directly threaten India. It must honor its own past commitments, including the so-called provisional nature of the Shaksgam agreement. Until then, India's caution is not hesitation, it is wisdom born of experience. Trust, after all, is not given, it is earned, and Beijing has much left to prove. Thank you for watching Statecraft.